Lots to talk around this. Let's speak firstly to Dale Vince, founder of Ecotricity. Dale, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Always good to talk. A couple of points on this. Firstly, why you're not at COP27?
Well, that's a good question. I tried to get there without flying, and it was really difficult. And then I heard that Coca-Cola was sponsoring it, which just shocked me. It's one of the biggest polluting companies in the world. And that kind of broke the camel's back for me. So I like to think of it more like POP27 than COP27.
You might be onto something. I was quite surprised to see that a sort of an obvious consumer brand would be associated in this respect. But I guess they would say, someone's got to pay for those impressive sets and all of those private jets.
Yeah, look, I understand that big business needs to get involved in this agenda because it's crucial that they change how they work. What I'm wary of, and a lot of people are wary of, is greenwashing, right? Big business is just talking a good talk and not doing so very much. A bit like Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister just a few weeks ago now. We've had a summer of Prime Ministers, haven't we?
We have had a summer of Prime Minister, although Boris is out there now talking about how we need a green agenda.
Yeah, well, he said that in Glasgow, but, what did he do in his time as Prime Minister? Not much.
In terms of where you are at, where you're at on this, Dale, I know we can talk a lot about transportation and emissions and the like, but there is another angle I know you talk a lot on and feel very strongly about it. That is agriculture. It's our food system.
Yeah, because animal farming is one of the biggest drivers of the climate crisis. There's some scary stats around this. What we've got into the habit of is feeding ourselves with animals way above any kind of historical level that has ever happened before. And we've done it by intensifying the agriculture, making animals live indoors, growing crops on good farmland to feed those animals and to get diminishing returns in the order of 10 to 1 when it comes to a cow. So 10 kilograms of plant protein in for 1 kilogram of beef protein out. And the shocking statistic from Oxford Uni is that if we were all plant-based, we could free up 75% of global farmland and feed ourselves. And in our country, that means half of our entire country given back to nature. We've lost 70% of our wildlife in the last 50 years, and we've lost it to farming, to grow plants, to feed animals, to feed people. It's an incredibly inefficient system, and we need to unwind that. So it's driving the climate crisis and the decline of wildlife globally, as well as a human health crisis as well.
But that sounds like a world with no burgers, Dale.
No, that's a world with no animals in your burgers. That's all that is. We have burgers.
Yeah, but you're advocating they're not eating meat.
Yeah, well, I think, we have to do it in a transition, and that's happening already. You quoted a figure earlier. The one I'm more familiar with is a 30% decline in red meat consumption over the last 10 years. Clearly, we can't get to net zero without reducing red meat consumption further. And so it's a process. It'll take time, but once you try eating plants, you feel so much better. I genuinely think it's something that people will adopt, and this is a shift in society that is happening and has to happen.
Is it not? I mean, many people listening to this, Dale, will go, hang on a second, I love a bit of chicken. I enjoy a burger. I love my spare ribs, a nice pork chop. You want to take that away from us, Dale?
Well, look, there's an old maxim, right? One man's meat is another man's poison. But the truth is, in today's climate-challenged world, one man's meat is every man's poison. Because if you choose to eat meat, then you are responsible for an incredible amount of pollution. Intensive farms are polluting all of the rivers of Britain. It's an incredible thing that's happening here. And bear this in mind, 1% of the people in our country, just 600,000 people, are responsible for 50% of our emissions. 50%. So you listed earlier all of the things that we're all doing, and you're right, there's a long list of things. They aren't enough. That's a simple fact. But it is a big list, and most people have relatively small carbon footprints, but 1% of us have ginormous carbon footprints.
Are these the rich old duffers? Is that what's happening?
That's right, top 1% of earners. And we really need to tackle that with carbon taxes and consumption taxes so that these people pay their way.
Is that just as kind of an anti-capitalist argument? I mean, why would all right, they use more aeroplanes, they might have a private jet, etc. But why would somebody, just because they've got more money, be more of a polluter?
Because they consume more. As you say, they fly around, they have 2, 3, 4 houses, they buy a lot of luxury goods. It's simply the fact. And it's the same statistic globally. 50% of all aviation emissions are caused by 1% of the world's population. And so there's an imbalance here, and the very richest among us are causing the climate to heat up, and they are causing problems in Europe as well as in the developing world, real problems that are making whole countries uninhabitable, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
So you want to see a world, Dale, that nobody eats meat, nobody flies on an aeroplane, we don't have very much fun, I mean, what kind of life would this be? Well, we couldn't go to Benidorm for a bit of a Beano and a burger.
Well, I have the answer for that, right? Vegan burgers are fantastic. You've just got to try them. There's not actually anything missing from them. Zero carbon planes are coming, right? We will be able to fly in the future. Green energy is here. It's already massively more economic than fossil fuel energy. Electric cars are taking over the roads, as you said before. They're great fun to drive. It's not about giving stuff up. It's just about doing things differently.
I asked at the beginning, how much should this government be spending on climate change? Give us a number, Dale Vince.
Well, look, I won't dispute the trillion because it's no doubt researched and it's a robust figure. But I'd say two things. One, first, we have to decarbonize our economy. We shouldn't give away £1 trillion in reparations before we've stopped our emissions at source, because it doesn't make sense, because the emissions continue, the damage continues. So we've got to stop it at source and then look at reparations. Secondly, I would say, let's look to the big oil and gas companies. They have known that their products cause climate change for probably 40 or 50 years. They're as guilty as tobacco companies and the drug companies in America that have just been sued for billions. They've purposefully made money out of the misery of people. Let's take the money from them.
Dale Vince, as ever, thank you. He is the founder of Ecotricity, the world's first green energy company.